This is why you need epic locations in your games. Trust me. I am super excited to announce our new Kickstarter! Woo! And it is called The Creator's Guide to Epic Locations Nature. I am really excited about this. Why am I excited about this? Because in today's video, you're going to look at what makes a location epic. But sometimes all of the knowledge and the training and the stuff, you just need a helping hand, and that's where this book will come in. It gives you a whole bunch of locations that occur in nature. Your players deviate from your planned adventure. They go in a different direction. They want to go north instead of going west or south. It doesn't matter. Wherever they go, this book has got your back. We will give you a whole bunch of descriptive words, senses, engage the ideologies of the spaces, learn how to create battle maps that are going to blow your players' minds, learn how to use descriptive words, what descriptive words, look at prompts, look at adventures that can come out of these locations. It's all in this book. Super excited for the launch on the 11th of October. Be there, support the book, get the book, have amazing adventures. The Creator's Guide to Epic Locations Nature, coming soon. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy, and today we're looking at that question of how do you make your locations epic? How do you do it? Well, what is an epic location to begin with? I mean, just saying, oh, we need to have epic locations. If we don't know what they are, we can't make them. So what is an epic location? An epic location, in my opinion, is something that after your game is finished, your players sit back and go, oh, that was insanity. That was insane. And do you remember how the location was doing this? And I got creepy. It was this, it was this, it was this. It's when the location has become part of the adventure, part of the story, but in its own right. So it's not as if it's just something that is forgotten about, as in all the locations of Lord of the Rings, except for the few that were epic. Now, what made them epic and how do you bring that into your game? Well, that's what we're going to be looking at in today's video. So let's jump straight into it. Step number 1. You have to keep it short. You have to keep your descriptions short. An epic location does not require an epic poem of hundreds and hundreds of hours of you waxing lyrical about the trees and the river and the grass and the roads. Leave that to Tolkien. We don't need that. You need to be punchy, succinct, and as much information in a single little short description as possible. What is that information? The 5 senses. Engage the 5 senses. You step into this huge chamber that echoes around with the whispers of the dead. Great dark ceilings glare down upon you with the malevolence of ages as your footfalls crunch on the old bones of those warriors who died defending this place. That's all. It's a few little sentences. Use your 5 senses. What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What's the taste in your mouth? Is it fear? Is it terror? Is it bile? Is it this? Is it that? Just think about your 5 senses and impose those onto your players once. Just initially, to kind of set the scene. Then you go into your technical details. There's some doors 300 feet away over there. There's a this, there's a that, there's the next thing. Then, every now and again, you drop in some additional information, some additional things. But how do we do that? How do we know when to drop these things in or not? Well, that comes to our second point. And our second point is that your location needs to follow a narrative structure. I know, what is this? The location needs to have a story. It needs to have a plan. Yes, it does. And this is what I mean by that, is that if you think of the 1-to-1 method or the 3-act structure or whatever system you want to use in terms of a narrative structure, your location needs to have the same thing. We need to be introduced to the location. Hi, I'm a forest and I come from forest land and I like to collect butterflies and rabbits. Okay, good. We get an introduction to the location. We then need to get an introduction to the situation. Yeah, I'm a forest. I'm growing on the side of the road, and I am very tall, very dark, and I'm full of things that are nice in the daytime, but at nighttime it gets a bit spooky. But that's a bit of an atmosphere we're going for. So you introduce your players to the personality of the location, the situation, the current situation of the personality. You need to add in those things so that the players kind of go, okay, cool, this is a character. Now, please bear this in mind. We are only doing this for the locations that need to be epic. Not every location needs to be epic. As a matter of fact, the majority of your locations should be mundane, serviceable locations that your players know are going to do what they expect them to do. A shop, a market, a bar. These are places that don't need a huge amount of description. Drop in one or two of the senses as they walk in, but don't overdo it. You don't need to do it every single time. There's a major reason for this. It will detract from the epicness of our epic locations when we actually use them. Right, so we've introduced the character of this location. We've introduced the kind of the average, what is it in a normal circumstance kind of way. And then we need to introduce the twister. What makes this location slightly different from all of the other locations that the players have ever been in before? So this forest that is growing on the side of the road, that's kind of nice during the day, but a bit creepy at night. What makes it creepy at night? Well, the first night the players are camped out in this forest, suddenly they hear the trees all starting to talk to each other about which one of the player characters they're going to eat first. Or perhaps there's something odd going on. Now, here's the next point. Not only is our forest, or in broader terms, our location, not only is our location going to have to be following a narrative structure where we introduce everything, then we introduce the complications, then we introduce the twist, then we introduce the finale. We're going to be doing all of that in this location, but it's separate from the actual adventure. So the adventure might be to track down a rogue bounty, or to go and do this, or to go and do that. Whatever the adventure is, it could even be to get to a temple within this location. The location's story is running separately from the adventure story. And this is important to remember, that the idea of these two stories kind of running with each other, it's going to help you as the GM, because if you are following the new methods of this channel, you're not planning, you're reacting. You're looking at how do the things in my world space react to what the players are doing in regards to a narrative structure. So your players, as they're advancing deeper into the location, you're going, well, the location should now have the introduction to the difficulty. What makes this location difficult? Okay, so maybe the floor starts to crumble, revealing lava, or maybe there's lots of different levels that the players have to kind of climb around or over or through. Again, look at the opportunities that by creating an epic location following a narrative structure, you are suddenly giving to yourself as you're running this entire scenario with the players going through it. Now, it may seem like you're juggling a lot of different balls up in the air in terms of the location having a story and in terms of the adventure having a story, but generally speaking, I find that it actually gives you more to work with, and as a result, takes pressure off of you, I should say, because the player characters are pursuing the main adventure. That's absolutely fine. They get to a point, though, where they seem a little bit confused or a little bit lost, or they're a little bit demotivated, or perhaps they're just taking a break. You can now introduce the adventure of the location, or the story of the location, I should say, because it's not really an adventure per se. There isn't something for the players to defeat or overcome, except in terms of surviving the location or experiencing the location. The location doesn't need to always be life and death. It could just be a complex location or an interesting location. It could be the inside of a shopping mall where there's lots of stuff going on, but we still want to have that narrative in the background. The reason being is that the players are going to be going, oh, there was so much going on. Remember the location, and we had to cross those chasms that they're trying to eat us while we were crossing them, and we hadn't even got yet to the temple, and when we got to the temple was insane because of this and that, and then there was the villain. So that's what we're looking to do. So our narrative structure is going to guide us in terms of what our location needs to evolve and grow and adapt with. Now, you're not creating this before the game starts. You're not preparing all of this kind of stuff. This is stuff that is just evolving as your players go forward. It is a useful tool for you to control the pacing. We also, in order to make our locations epic, need to include our NPCs. Our NPCs are our voice, our gateway from the GM into the game space, so we might as well use them. Think about great NPC moments used to make locations better in films. Sir, the odds of successfully navigating an asteroid field are approximately 3,970 to 1. Never tell me the odds. It's a classic line from a Star Wars film where C-3PO is telling Han Solo the impossibility of navigating an asteroid field. There's no value for the character to have said that necessarily to the pilot, other than to the audience, to the players going, "Oh, this is a really dangerous place. Are you sure we want to go in there?" You could have just said to the players, "This looks like a really dangerous place to go into." But it's much more interesting and it's much more memorable if the NPC goes, "I'm not going in there. Are you mad? That's a very freaking dangerous place." Now the players are going, "Hey, if he's reluctant to go in there, we have to be the heroes and we have to go in there." So look at the layering of effects that you're getting by shifting information into the NPCs who then give it to the player characters. The players might go, "Well, what else do you know about this forest?" "Oh, well, there are some terrifying things that come out at night." As you're building up this idea in your head of what's going on, you're building the NPC information into the player characters. They're absorbing it because they're asking for it. They are getting this information out of it. And when they kind of get some information out of a wandering ranger or someone who's in this area, "Oh, well, there's a back door that you can take round the side. That'll get you past all the traps." They're not going to be going, "Oh, well, we didn't set off the GM traps." You're not going to be going, "Oh, they've avoided all of my traps that I planned," because you never planned any to begin with. But what they are going to be doing is, "Look at us, we're amazing players because we found out how to get around the GM sneaky traps by interrogating the GM's NPCs." Oh, yes, think about it like that. Absolutely. Or it was just you being a great GM going, "I'm going to give them a whole bunch of information to make my location memorable by driving it up in their minds." It costs you nothing. It gives you so much. It gives you story structure. It gives you this location that evolves and changes and has got a whole complexity sitting on top of itself. And yet your players are just going to be remembering it as this epic, epic location. Trust me, this is something that when you get right, your players are never going to forget this encounter, this adventure, this location, this moment in your game that just seems to be so complex, so crafted, so genius, and yet it's so simple to pull off if you just go through those steps. That is my take on epic locations. Hit that like button or that subscribe button for more content coming out every week. You know we're here, and we're here because of you. Big thank you to our Patreons who, keep the whole process going. Until next week, I wish you and yours the happiest of gaming.